name is Jessie Ace. I'm part of a group of enabled warriors that you've probably never heard of. We're fighting back against our invisible illness and taking the dis out of disability. We don't give sympathy to our symptoms. They enable us to be the warrior that we are. If you ask doctors and nurses, they'd say what we're doing is impossible. But pushing the limits of our conditions is something that we have to break through every single day. See, we push the limits. We are mentally strong, and we can do anything. The question is, how far can we push those limits? This podcast will give you the answers. I'm Jessie Ace, and this is the Disabled to Enabled podcast. Enabled Warriors on our show today is an award-winning radio producer who has worked with DJs such as Sarah Cox and Aled Jones, and who used to co-present the Radio 1 Scott Mills show. Now she was the brains behind many of the show's features on the Scott Mills show, including Becky Camp, What's Becky's Forte, and Becky's Classifieds, where the only item brought was a glass jar that claimed to contain the ghost of ex-Beatle George Harrison. What? She also produced the Scott Mills Daily podcast, and she's here with us today to discuss something Scott Mills actually mentioned on this podcast a little while ago. Really excited that you've actually come on here. This is really, really exciting. Enabled Warriors, please help me in welcoming the fabulous Beccy Huxtable, everybody. Woo! Hey!
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's such a good intro. Thank you. Yeah, I'm really good, thank you. Yeah, that's built me up. I don't think I've ever had such a welcome. Yeah, thank you very much. I hope I live up.
You know, you're doing so much amazing stuff. So
I said I hope I live up to the hype.
Of course you will. Don't worry. Okay, so let's get straight in by talking about your MS diagnosis process, because it was a little bit different than most people's, because it kind of happened live on the Scott Mills show, didn't it? Can you describe what kind of happened that day? Because it sounds pretty crazy.
Yeah, so I had been I've been feeling really tired for a long time. I've been going backwards and forwards to the doctors with like really different symptoms, like funny things happening to my hand and strange sort of winking and just sort of very different symptoms every now and then. And everything I went with, they said, oh, it might be this, try this, and would give me something for it. And then one day we were on the show, and I used to get this strange feeling like my phone was vibrating in my pocket, but I didn't have a phone in my pocket, and I could activate it by like putting my head down to my chest. So if I nodded my head, I could say, right, I'm vibrating now, no I'm not, I'm vibrating now, no I'm not.
Oh wow.
And Scott was saying, this is so weird, and I think he just thought I was going a bit mad, and he made a joke about it on the radio, and a couple of people messaged in and said, you shouldn't be joking about this, she might have MS. And somebody said, that's a sign of MS, she's likely to have MS. And obviously we didn't read those out, but I looked at them, and because there was more than one, I thought, oh, this is a bit strange. And because Scott's mum has MS, but a different type, we read those messages, and he went, no, my mum doesn't vibrate, you don't have MS, it's fine. But it turns out that those listeners were right, and I did. And after that I went to the doctors and I said, is there any chance you think I could have MS? And then within a few months, I was diagnosed. So it was I'm grateful to them for pointing me in the right direction, at least.
Yeah, God, and thank God Scott Mills made a joke about it.
Yeah, in a strange way. Yeah.
It's crazy, isn't it? And Scott was telling us that straight after that show had finished, he kind of ran you down to the GP surgery, didn't he? And kind of made you go.
Yeah, it was very strange actually, because I remember going to that doctor, and I walked in and he said, oh, what's wrong? And I said, I don't know, I've got a funny vibration in me. And he said, do you normally walk like this? And I said, no, because I was walking a bit funny. And then he said to me, can you say baby hippopotamus? And I was like, what is this doctor he sent me to? I was like, this is really strange. And I went, and I was like, oh, no, I can't say baby hippopotamus. I was like, what strange, if I have got this illness, what a strange illness it is, the fact it stops you from saying things like baby hippopotamus. And then I was like, I've never actually wanted to say that in my life, but now every time I think I'm, it now annoys me if I can't say it. So I'm obviously all right today, but there are some days where I just can't say it. So
That's amazing.
it's a strange one. Yeah.
So that's kind of your sign. If you
Yeah.
how am I having a good day? But let's see if I can say baby hippopotamus. That is really hard, isn't it? Oh my god, baby hippopotamus.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I'm gonna keep an eye on that one. That is so weird. So
Yeah.
when you were finally diagnosed then, did you know anything about MS before you were diagnosed? Like, were you given any info about it in hospital or from your doctor or anything? What kind of support?
So I didn't know much about it before. Obviously, Scott's mum has progressive MS, so her symptoms were quite different to mine because I've got relapsing remitting MS. In hospital, I didn't really get that much information, if I'm honest, because I think the first time I went in, they said I had clinically isolated syndrome and they couldn't diagnose MS because they hadn't seen another relapse. So, but he said, the consultant left and he said, yeah, it's like a 95% chance it'll turn into MS, and then sort of left, and I was left, and I was like, oh, so it was the world of the Google, because at that point I wasn't obviously assigned an MS nurse or anything.
Yeah.
And I kind of knew in my head, because I'd gone through all the other bits and I was thinking back, I kind of knew that I had it really. So I did a lot of investigation myself and went on the MS Society website and Shift MS and just spoke to, I was really lucky actually because of Twitter and because of Scott's position on the show. I was able to speak to a lot of people and kind of, realize it wasn't that bad, or there were, not that it wasn't that bad, but there were people out there who could give you lots of support. But in terms of actually from the doctors and stuff, I'm not sure I really did at the time. I do now because I've got a fantastic MS nurse, Carolyn, but it's at the time, no, it was a kind of a limbo, and I had so many questions, but at the same time I didn't really want to know that many answers. So I wonder if they did it deliberately in hindsight, that it was such a big thing to get my head around that maybe they don't want to bombard you with lots of information, because at that time some people might not want it, but you can find it if maybe if I'd asked for it I would have got a bit more, but it wasn't volunteered at the time. No.
Wow. I find that fascinating because I think everybody has a different experience in hospital, which I think is strange anyway. Like, it should be unanimous across the board. I don't understand why it's not. And it's really interesting actually that you said maybe they don't want to get bombarded with information. And I've never thought about it that way before. So that's really interesting.
Because I know some people don't, because when the consultant was talking to me, he said, do you want to know kind of prognosis? And I said, oh, do some people not? And he said, yeah, some people just don't want to know, and some people don't see the MS nurse, some people don't see the consultant, some people choose not to take medication. But then when I did say to him, okay, then yes, I will have the prognosis, he went, well, I can't really tell you. It could be
Helpful.
this, it could be that, but we don't know the course of anyone's MS. So I was like, oh, right, okay, well, it doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So, wow. So kind of helpful, but not exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy. So how would you say that your MS affects you every day? Like, do you have to plan your whole life around your symptoms now?
I'd love to say no, but I think secretly the answer is yes. So it affects how much I do in a day, when I do stuff in a day, so that I know that kind of by 4 o'clock I'm kind of flagging a bit. If I've got anything really important that needs lots of brain power, I'll do it in the morning, walking around and stuff. So I get a lot of brain fog. Sometimes my speech is affected, and then mobility sometimes. It tends to be with me that if I've been doing a lot of thinking, then my legs go, and the other way around. So it's almost like my body has an option of like, you can use this or you can use this, but you can't expect to use everything all at once. So I think, you know, if I've walked a long way, then then my brain will just kind of collapse and I won't be able to answer, you know, the in-depth questions or whatever. So it does kind of affect how I do things. But I just try and work around it. So if on days when like I'm really fatigued, I won't dry my hair. It's just making those choices, and you do end up saying no to more stuff. And I think you do become, some friends understand, but I think you do become a bit more isolated as a result of it, because you can't go out I'm not saying I'd go out every night if I didn't have MS. I probably wouldn't. I'm a bit of a home person, but I think it does affect how often you do those things, and you know, how late you stay out, how much you drink, yeah, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
It does affect it. I'd love to say it didn't, but I think it does. But then but actually knowing that I've got it, I think I lead a better, happier life now that I've been diagnosed, so that I can make those choices and know what works and what doesn't work for me, rather than before, where I didn't know what caused things and I didn't know what exacerbated the symptoms, and I just kind of carried on and just thought, oh, I might have an iron deficiency, or oh, that's because I had milk on my cereal, or you know, put it down to all these crazy things. And actually now I know it's better in some ways, so it's not all bad. The knowledge is power, I think.
Definitely, yeah. So do you think you've had symptoms of MS for quite some time, just not knowing what it was?
Yeah, so I think I've had MS since I was about 8 or 9.
Oh wow.
And so I went into hospital quite a lot, and they thought I had Crohn's disease for quite a long time, and I would go on steroids, large doses of steroids, get better, and then be fine. Like, it didn't really fit. Like, it sort of fit, but my stomach, it wasn't bad all the time. It would come again. It was probably like almost like relapses, where I'd have the steroids and then I'd be better, and then it would come. And I remember I had quite a long time off school. I was in a wheelchair because I couldn't really walk, but they put that down to I think they put that down to like a potassium deficiency. There were loads of funny things when I was a kid, which were like, oh, that's just that, or oh, that's just that, or oh, that's just that. And I remember when I was doing my exam, quite a lot of my relapses happened kind of March or April time. And I remember one year when I was doing my exams, I think it was my A levels, I went into one, and you know, people say, oh, you go into exam and you forget stuff. This was like complete brain fog. Like, there was just nothing there, and I knew that I knew it, but I couldn't recall the simplest of things. And I thought, this isn't normal. And now in hindsight, I think, oh right, yeah, during that period I was having a relapse. That's so obvious to me now, but I just didn't know at the time. Yeah.
God, it's scary, isn't it? It really is. But yeah, having symptoms that young, wow. Wow. And the thing is, doctors don't really, like you say, they kind of palm it off on kind of everything else almost. And it's just like, sometimes.
And I think if you move house a lot, or so I moved house a couple of times, and then I went to university somewhere different, and then I moved to London, and then even within London you change doctors, and you know, the symptoms are so varied. Like, one time I went because I had a really, really itchy head. Now, that to me, obviously then it was for a set period of time that you couldn't see anything on my scalp. It was obviously just a sensory symptom of some kind. But you go to the doctor and say, I've got a really itchy head. They're going to give you a shampoo or a cream or something to try and sort it out. They're not going to think, oh my God, that person's got MS. It's only if you see the same doctor consistently, and then, you know, then they start to piece it all together. But it takes a lot of work, I think.
It just amazes me. It really does.
Yeah.
God. So the thing that I was most interested in when I was speaking to Scott, which sounds really funny, which he was telling me the story about the fact that you've also now gone on to have a baby. There are a lot of young women, probably in my position now, who have just got married and thinking of children, and are just so like lost and confused and scared about having a baby with MS in particular. Can you kind of let us know your experience and hopefully reassure us that it will be okay?
Well, in my case, I can't speak for everybody, obviously, because everybody is different. But in my case, it was completely fine, and it was the best thing that I ever did. I was incredibly worried about it. I think not only because there is a slightly higher chance that the child will have MS, but also in terms of how it would affect me during the pregnancy and how I would feel afterwards. Because they often talk about higher instances of relapses afterwards, and the risk that I would put myself to, to have that. But in the end, I spoke to so many people, and I spoke to some people who said that after they found out they had MS, they decided that they weren't going to ever have children, and then others who had only found out, others that have been diagnosed and decided to have kids, and then others who actually having the children had given them the diagnosis because it was in that post kind of delivery first sort of 3 to 6 month stage where they started to get their symptoms, and then they were diagnosed. So I think thinking about it for a long time, it was something that we just really wanted to do. And yeah, you don't know what's going to happen in the future. You could get anything. You could have an accident, you could get any illness, and actually what's stopping you from doing it? So when I was pregnant, I didn't realize I was pregnant at first. I thought I was having a relapse. It turns out I was having a baby, which was a good thing. And then during the pregnancy, I actually felt better, and a lot of my symptoms disappeared. I was tired and I felt sick, as most people do, but actually the MS was really good. So that was really good. And then after, you got a lot of extra care, and you get extra consultant appointments if you've got MS, so they look after you more. My partner was able to stay overnight with me in the hospital when I had my baby, because I was worried when I'm really tired, sometimes I can't get up in the night, and I was really worried that having gone through a labour, potentially, if I couldn't move or couldn't talk or couldn't really say what I wanted, because again, if I'm tired, my speech goes. With a brand new baby, I'd be really struggling. So they let him stay with me. And yeah, I had a completely normal birth. And afterwards, it is absolutely exhausting. But I didn't touch wood. I don't know if I'm touch wood, he's 2 next month. I didn't have any relapses after. I was absolutely exhausted, and people say, you don't know what tired is until you've had children. That's absolutely right. And I would say, I think the one thing I would say to anybody with MS, and I think actually, do you know what, I would, especially women who have MS, so they're the one having the baby, naturally, unless you've got a partner who is like very, very modern, it will probably fall to you most of the time to get up with them and bath them and change the nappies and all that sort of stuff, just naturally, because it's the natural part of it is in that first few months, it's you that the baby feels closer to. I don't know. I don't know, that sounds a bit bad on the dads, but I think naturally it is the mum who most of the stuff falls to, whether the dads are volunteering to do it or not. And it is just exhausting. So I would say get as much support as you can. Make sure that you've got friends and family around you, and don't try and do anything. If I could speak to myself now, I would, if I was to do it all again, I mean, I was like up and dressed and going out to the shops, and if I was to do it all again, I would stay in bed with the baby for 3 months and get people to bring me food and drinks and set up my iPad or set up my telly. Let's get some magazines, get some books, get my phone. People can just come to my bedroom, say hello, bring me flowers, bring me chocolates, and I just wouldn't get out of my pajamas. And that would be the best advice that I could give you.
Sounds
Don't
like
try and do anything. Yeah, it doesn't matter if the washing it isn't done. It doesn't matter if you haven't done the cleaning. It doesn't matter if the house is a tip. Just try and relax as much as you can. Because everyone says sleep when your baby sleeps, but you don't. You just end up having a wash or like doing something, because it's just tiring. But take as much help as you can, and rest as much as you can, and
Yeah.
it'll be the best thing you've ever done, I think.
Oh, that's great advice. Thank you so much for passing
Yeah.
that on. Amazing.
Yeah.
So the one
And don't be scared of the drugs. Sorry, I was going to say, I was all for I did hypnobirthing, and was all for having like a really natural birth. And in the birth plan, it was like, I don't want this drugs, I don't want those drugs. I just want to have a really natural birth, whatever natural birth is, basically without any drugs. And then after about 2 hours of starting, I was like, I'll have whatever you can give me. So yeah, don't be afraid of taking the pain relief if they offer it to you, if you want it. But, yeah.
That's the first thing I'd say. It's like, do you want pain relief? Yes.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah. Why not? Just go for it.
It's there, exactly. It's there. You might as well use it. So, were you on any medication for your MS before you got pregnant? And then how did that kind of feel coming off of that and then going back onto it, if you have?
So, no, I wasn't.
Okay.
And the reason that I wasn't was because I've tried 3 different, so far I've tried 3 different types of medication, and I've had to come off all 3 of them because of the side effects. So I've been on Copaxone, Tecfidera, and Prebaby. And Copaxone, I had skin site reaction, so ran out of places to be able to do it. Tecfidera, there was stomach problems with that, so they took me off that one. And Prebaby, I really liked, but again, once I ran out because of the skin site reaction, my skin obviously doesn't like injections, and once I run out of sites for that, there was nothing I could do. But I think you can take now. One of my friends took Copaxone during her second pregnancy. I think that's okay now to do, and she was fine. She chose not to breastfeed, and that meant that she could keep taking it. So that would be an option if I was to have another one. I think I'm going to try, and it worries me that I don't take anything. The more I read about, I was always, no, I'm going to try it, and then no, I'm going to see what happens without it, because up until now, everyone that I've tried, the side effects have been worse than my actual symptoms. But the longer it goes on, the more I know that I need to get on something. It's just finding the right one.
Yeah.
So I need to keep pushing, but what that is, I don't know. I was just about to try, I want to say Lemtrada, but then it was withdrawn from. There was one that I was about to try, and then it was withdrawn just as I was about to ring them and say, yes, I want this one. So yeah, so we'll keep going, and we'll see what. I've got an appointment next month, so we'll see what happens.
I'll see what they say.
But it must be a scary thing to think about if you're on medication and then coming off it to have the baby. But there were some that I deliberately didn't try. Some people say, oh, why didn't you try that one when you came off Prebaby? There were quite a few that I deliberately didn't try because I wanted to have a baby, and I knew that there were time limits on them coming out of your system, and that just didn't feel right about that because of my age as well. I'm 38 now, so if they said you can be on this drug but it's going to take 2 years before you can have a child, that then to me was 2 years that I didn't have. If I was 25, that might be really different, but at 38, that wasn't, or 36 or whatever I was, that wasn't something that I didn't have the luxury of time on my side.
Oh, I totally get that, definitely. Yeah, and the thing that's the thing that scares me as well, because I'm on Tecfidera at the moment, and when I first went onto that, I had a lot of side effects, and typically it was all over Christmas, so there was nobody in the MS nurse office or anything like that. I couldn't get hold of anybody, typically, and it was absolutely awful. So my worst fear is really coming off of that and then going back onto it and having all of that again. Just do not want to have.
How long just out of curiosity, and you don't have to, how long did those side effects last for? Because they kept saying to me, it'll get better, it'll get better, it'll get better. And I did last 6 weeks. And at that point, it just kept getting worse and worse. And I thought at 6 weeks, that's probably enough chance, but maybe I should have pushed through. I don't know.
It took me about 6 months. So yeah.
Oh, wow.
It was horrendous.
Wow.
Yeah. And at the time I was employed, so I was sat in an office in because I was a graphic designer in fashion. I was sat in this back office and I was like, I feel so rubbish today. But like my boss didn't understand what MS was or the treatment that I was on or anything. So it was awful. It was absolutely awful. It really was.
Yeah, no, that's not. Yeah, no, maybe I should have. I feel a bit bad that I didn't give it more of a go. But I think when it takes over your life and you're calling in sick more, you are more of a fighter than me. But when you're calling in sick more because of your side effects than the symptoms, that's when I give up. But maybe I should push through a bit more.
I think everybody's different though. That's the thing, and we are in a different place. So it's each to their own. I wouldn't worry about it too much. Don't feel bad. You don't need to. And they actually say that medication in general works for 1 in 300 people anyway. So you do have to do a bit of trial and error to find the right one.
Oh, I didn't realise that. Yeah.
Crazy. So when you are pregnant and stuff, you often get a lot of other people's general opinions, let's say, of how you should have the baby and raise the baby and all of that sort of stuff. How did you navigate all of everybody else's opinions? Helpful advice.
I'm not too. I think some people get really agitated by people offering their opinion, but I think I would take advice from, like, people can give me as much advice as they want. Whether I take it or not is another matter. I'm not bothered by people. Some people get funny if people come up to you and touch your baby bump, unless it was a complete random. I wouldn't be offended. I just kind of like, all right, whatever. I'm quite open to that sort of thing. But I know some people, if you offer advice, they go absolutely crazy. What's funny about people's advice is you hear the same thing over and over and over and over again, and actually it doesn't work for your baby, or it's given to you by somebody who doesn't have a baby, or they've read it on the internet and it's sort of half right, and you think, oh right, what they're trying to tell me is this, but they've sort of misunderstood and it's kind of half garbled. I think I listen to people's advice and then just take it with a pinch of salt and see what happens. I mean, some of it's brilliant, some of the advice. And my son had a dairy allergy, and actually he kept being sick, and lots of people were giving me lots of advice. And I went to a baby massage class once. So funny, the classes you end up at with children, like, why would this, I'm sleep deprived and everything, and there I am rubbing like almond oil into this little baby, like treating him like a prince. And I'm thinking I should just be lying down in my pajamas watching This Morning, and he's lying there going, rub my tummy, mum, rub my tummy. But you go out to do things to make friends and meet people. And actually somebody there said to me, have you thought you might have a dairy allergy? And I was like, no, I didn't. And I was breastfeeding him at the time, and I thought, right, okay, if I cut down, I was a big cheese fiend at this point. So I cut it down, and he did get better. And then eventually we saw a pediatrician who said, yes, he's got a milk allergy. You need to cut all milk from your diet, everything, like even if it says it's got milk in it, cut it. And I thought, actually, do you know what? That woman was right. And it goes back to how I was first diagnosed, almost, with those listeners texting in. If they hadn't texted in, then I wouldn't have known, really. So I think I prefer to know as much. You offer me as much advice as you want, and then I'll decide whether I take it or not. But I won't be offended if you offer me advice. I'll just laugh internally if it's wrong, or if I'm not going to take it. Yeah.
So what's some of the best and worst advice that you've been given, would you say?
There's a lot of advice about trying to get them to sleep. So some people say just put them down and let them cry. Other people say, oh, you need to drive them around. Other people say if you put them in this contraption or that contraption. The crazy things about how to get them to sleep. Oh, if you play this noise or buy this, a lot of it is about like things that you buy. Oh, I bought this sheep, and it there's a little sheep thing that you can buy for children, and it makes the sound of like it's a crazy noise, but it's meant to mimic the sound of when they're in the womb. So it sort of goes whoop 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 whoop. And somebody said, oh, get one of these, and I was like, what? But then after you haven't slept for like weeks, I said to my partner, I was like, right, we're getting the sheep. Got the sheep and put it next to me, and he's like, oh. So I was like, oh my god, that's the best £20 we've ever spent. And some things like that you think, but then you spend another £20 on something that people tell you is great, and it's rubbish. They just take one look at it and go, no, I'm not having that. So it is complete trial and error. But again, every child is different, and I think if I had another one, I'd go, oh right, let's get the sheep out, because Bryn loved the sheep, and the child would be like, oh god, not the sheep. I want a duck or something. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's like you just don't know. You've just got to keep trying and see what happens.
It's so typical. It really was.
Yeah. I think the worst bit of advice recently was, and some people swear by this, but he had a bit of a cough, and my sister-in-law said to me, oh, put Vicks on his feet. And I was like, right, I've heard about putting Vicks on his chest, but why am I putting Vicks on his feet? She's like, oh yeah, it cured my cough, always cures my cough every night. So I put a bit of Vicks on his feet, put socks on, he gets up, runs off and skids and slips on the carpet. I was like, oh great, whether he's got a cough or not, he's now got a bruised bum, so well done.
Oh dear. Well, you've got to try these things,
yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
And it's a funny story you can tell him when he's like 18 on his birthday.
Yeah.
Comparison, so.
Yeah.
So that works. So how are you finding actually being a mum with MS? I mean, is there anything that you found to make it slightly easier, or does that just not exist?
Going back to work? No, I never thought I'd say that. I always thought I'd be a stay-at-home mum. I never thought I'd go back to work, but actually going back to work is a break. I get to go to the toilet in peace. I get to drink a cup of tea. He goes to his childminder, and I just have a lunch without getting up and down like 20 times. No, I'm joking, but it is actually, for me, going back to work has been a bit of a break. In terms of how hard it is, it's difficult now. He's talking and understanding more, so he's 2 soon, and because of my speech sometimes I can tell now, so I'll say the wrong word quite a lot, especially when he's messing about and I need to say something quickly. So if I'm trying to tell him to stop when he's about to run into the road, or if I need him to do something quickly, my brain obviously doesn't process it quite right, and I'll say, oh, I'll mean to say like put your wellies on, but I'll say something completely different, and I'll say I can't think of an example, put your chocolate on or something, and he sort of looks at me and goes, oh, like, and he knows now that it's not right, but because he's a kid he can't quite work out why I've said why the words are wrong. So my boyfriend will just laugh and understand what I meant, whereas he's kind of like, oh, put my chocolate on. Oh, okay, mum, yeah, that sounds like a good plan. Do you know what I mean? So that's quite hard. But in some ways I think he understands. I think he's sort of, well, it's all he'll know, so he has to be used to it. And I think like I said before, in terms of getting used to things, so if we're off together, we'll go to the park and run about in the morning, and then in the afternoon he still has an afternoon nap, so I will rest. I've learnt that now. I will rest when he rests, otherwise I can't make it to the end of the day. And I just become stressed with him, which isn't fair, because he doesn't understand why I'm tired. He thinks that, we're going to play, but actually if I rest when he does and make a conscious effort of that, and I have been known to, after lunch, drive, so we'll have lunch, then I'll drive somewhere knowing that he'll fall asleep in the car, and then I'll just sit and sleep in the car with him. And then when we wake up, we'll drive back, drive to like a
That's
coffee shop or
genius.
something. I'll get a drive through hot chocolate,
Oh.
and then I'll just sit and have a rest or listen to a podcast or just rest my eyes, even not necessarily fall asleep, but just that thing of switching off for a bit. While he sleeps, and then that's enough to kind of recharge me to get me through the last bit till bedtime. That's the bit that I find the hardest, like 6 till 7. A lot of people call it the witching hour, where they're overtired, they don't really want to go to bed, they still want to run around and play, and you're just like, I'm ready for dinner, I'm ready for bed, go on, go to bed, go to bed, go to bed.
Put the sheep on.
That is yeah. I wish that still worked.
So you finding it okay with working as well at the moment?
Yeah, so I work part-time now. I don't think I could work full-time and have him, but I work part-time, so I work 3.5 days a week, which seems to work. He goes to a childminder for 4 days a week, so I've got half a day to just catch up on things and just rest if I need to, which sounds a bit luxurious, but I don't think I could do either particularly well if I didn't have a bit of time. I mean, I say rest, ultimately I end up cleaning, tidying, running random errands, getting doctor's appointments in that time because it's just easier. You can't do that with a toddler, but it is there if I need to rest, which is a luxury, I think.
Yeah, no, that sounds the perfect scenario. It really does. It's working for you at the moment, but that's good.
Yeah,
that's good. Yeah, and some people say it gets easier when they get older, but who knows?
Yeah, I think that's probably when they're 18. I don't even know if it's then.
They leave home.
Yeah, it's funny because we were talking about. I've got some friends who had babies at the same time, and that's something I would say if you're going to have a baby, whether you've got MS or not. I joined a baby group before I had them, so sometimes they run classes. I know NCT do them, but you can do them through the NHS as well, and you just get to meet other mums in your area who are having babies around the same time. And I think that's really important because I didn't realize how lonely it would be. So for the first 2 weeks when your partner's off, or longer if you have the shared parental leave, but a lot of people still only take, the partner only takes a couple of weeks off. Your parents come, your relatives come, everyone comes to see the baby, and then at the end of that time it's just you and the baby, and you're on your own, and everybody else has gone back to work. And it's really, the baby can't talk, it's really brand new to you, you don't really know what's going on, and you just don't. I just didn't know anybody. So actually to have the support of those other girls and to be able to text them in the middle of the night and go, oh my God, I'm just, I've been up since this time, I've been up since that time, to just meet, you all turn up at a coffee shop, you all look exhausted, sometimes you don't even speak to each other, but just to have that, those girls will be, we'll be friends for a really long time, and we still see each other, we still meet up once a week. We've been more honest together than some of my friends that I've been friends with for years and years and years. And I think having that support is really, really important. So yeah, make sure, I can't remember what I was talking about at the start of that, but definitely join a group if you can to get that support from other mums early on. It is really important. Don't just be lonely on your own, because it is tough. That was the bit I found the hardest. Was just the loneliness. I think without them I would have really struggled.
That's good to know. That's really good to know. What's the best way of finding a group like that? Is it just a kind of Facebook?
So I know I know NCT do them. I think you have to pay for them, but on the NHS, when you go with the midwife, they should say that they give you some classes to kind of, it's almost like learning how to give birth. And they do them in groups, so you will meet other people like that. But the girls that I met that I'm still friends with were with the NCT group. So I think it was about £80. But again, it's one of those things where you think, my goodness, that's so much money, but actually I would say it's worth it. And I know my sister, who had a baby, she really, really struggled afterwards, and she said now that she would save and pay for that as something to invest in.
Yeah, exactly. It's an investment
to meet some people. Yeah, but there are also now since I've had him, I've noticed there's quite a few sort of mum friend apps, you know, like the kind of the Tinder for meeting other mums.
I
And
love
they're
that.
quite good. They have they have meetups at like libraries and things, and just get out and try and meet people at baby groups and things. The class for the baby might be crazy, like I was talking about baby massage, but actually it's not really about that. It doesn't really matter what you're doing. It's
Yeah,
about meeting
it's
other
about
mums
the
in the same
community.
situation. Yeah.
I am really intrigued what they teach you in these like pre-baby classes.
Yeah, it's you wouldn't have said, yeah, you wouldn't have seen that, but my face just went, oh. Yeah, I was really intrigued as well. There's some things there like you would never know until you went to these classes. I'm trying to think what the craziest things were. I didn't realize some babies are born like covered in hair, like completely head to toe, like
Really?
covered
Like
in
little
hair.
monkeys?
Apparently, yeah. So they show you loads of pictures of different babies of what they could look like. I
Wow.
guess so that when yours pops out and it doesn't look like in the movies, you're not going, oh my God, I've given birth to a gorilla. Completely normal. Apparently, it all just sort of
Imagine.
brushes off. Yeah, so
Wow.
my son was born with really little hairy shoulders. It was so cute. But yeah, no, there's lots of, it sounds really strange, we'll talk about it like that. But it's things like they teach you how to, how many blankets they need when you're putting them to stuff you just don't know, like what size nappy to use, how to feed them, you know, how often you should feed them, you know, what this crying, what's it likely to mean, and things you should watch out for, and you know, even the fact that you need a car seat to be able to get them home, and that they'll put a hat on them when they're born. And yes, so when my son was born, he was cold, so they literally put him under what I can only describe as a grill. He looked like he was under a grill machine. It was like he was on a sunbed type grill. And I'm thinking, oh my God, they're cooking my baby. It was just to warm him up. But it's things like that which and also if you have a cesarean, the group that I did, they sort of warned you that actually it's not just you and your partner and one person in the room, that there could be kind of 10-12 people in the room if you're having a cesarean, because it's a operating theatre, I guess. So it was just to kind of give you a bit more knowledge, and also what types of pain relief you can have, and your rights, as in don't be afraid to ask for this, or you know, home birth, water birth, all that sort of stuff, you know, things that
Well, that's really good. I
was,
had no idea that they literally take you through everything, because I wouldn't know how to do any of that. So, because quite a lot of people say like, oh, there's no handbook for parenting or anything. It sounds like you don't need one anyway. Just take notes.
Well, yeah. Yeah, a lot of it's, well, you forget everything, but it was good to have done it. Yeah,
definitely. Oh my goodness. So before we go into our super quick secrets, which I know you can't wait for, do you have any other advice for other people currently like going through diagnosis and that sort of thing, probably feeling a bit lost and scared?
Yeah, I think that is the time when I did feel really like a lot. In some ways, I was really happy when I got my diagnosis. That sounds strange, but for me, it finally made me realize that I wasn't going mad. I think I'd had so many symptoms for so long. I remember saying to my mum, you know, one day they're going to find out what's wrong with me. And I was getting to the point where I thought I was a hypochondriac, and I knew I wasn't. I knew there was something wrong. I knew that people didn't feel the way I felt every day, because everybody would be moaning a hell of a lot more if they did. So to me, when I got a diagnosis, I was actually quite relieved. But also at the same time, I think you kind of not grieve for the life that you had, but you realize that it might not always be the same, or it might get worse. But I think you can only work with how you are at the minute. I really struggle. I can't think long term. I can't think about it too much, because if I do think long term, it does make me really anxious, and I do get really down. And like, you can't think like that. I think you have to, in some ways it's made me a lot more, it's a bit cliche, as in you get an illness and then you become kind of see the light, and you know, go out and do all the stuff, and you appreciate so much more. But I do, because you know, there are some days I get up and I can't walk very well. So on the days that I can walk well, I will climb to the top of a hill or go for a walk in the, you just do stuff that you wouldn't normally do. And I see so many people who don't have MS or don't have anything wrong. I just think, what are you doing? You're just wasting your life, as in you're just kind of sitting there and just get up, and you don't know, you should be so grateful that you can do all these things. Why aren't you doing all these things? So I think it has made me a lot more kind of proactive in that sense. And also I do see the good in a lot more things as the result of it. I think I appreciate so much more, and I'm a lot more grateful. But advice for new people, I think just talk to as many people as you can, and don't always believe that the worst case will be you. There are so many everybody has a different story. Nobody's MS is the same. And you know what, if it does end up really bad, then it ends up really bad. Deal with it when it comes. Just take each day as it comes. And that's really kind of, everyone says that, take each day as it comes, but I don't think you can do anything else really.
No,
because I think it would drive you crazy. I don't know, what would your advice be? It's
I would probably say something along the lines of what you said, to be honest. Like, taking each day as it comes is really, really important. And I think not rushing the process is also very important. So I think taking the time to just kind of accept it in your own time, and not think, oh, I've been diagnosed a week, like I should have accepted it by now, like I should be able to move on by now. And it's not that quick.
No, I still don't think I've been diagnosed since 2012, so I'm almost 10 years, I guess, and I still don't think there are some days when I still don't think I've come to terms with it. I don't think I ever will. I think it's unfair. I think it's rubbish. I think, why me? It's not right. But other days I just crack on. But I don't know. Maybe I still don't think I have completely, if I'm really honest. Have you? I don't know.
I feel like I have now, but it took me a good 5 years to get there. It really did. So I was diagnosed 6 years ago, and I think it was only so before this business I had a wedding business, and we did a lot of live videos, and I actually spoke about my illness for the first time, and it was super, super, super scary at the time. But then I found that all these people were coming out saying, well, actually I've got a disability and I'm really worried about my wedding, like what can I do? And it began this whole help cycle of helping brides-to-be who were disabled to customize their wheelchairs and to like disguise an oxygen tank and things like that. And it became something so much bigger than what I ever thought it would be. And I think that really helped me to understand and accept my illness.
Yeah, there's definitely a benefit, and you definitely get a lot from helping others, I think.
Absolutely,
I think that is something. And a lot of people say to me, why did you talk about it? And I thought, well, if I can help one person, that's enough. And I remember when I spoke about it on the radio, there was a girl, and she messaged in and she said, I'm 16 and live in Scotland, and quite a remote part of Scotland. She says, you don't hear anybody talk about MS, especially young people. And I thought, right, okay, well, that was it. If nothing else ever comes of this, at least I've helped her feel a bit more accepted. So I always think about her and think, well, that was it then. That was mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished, exactly.
Yeah.
I know, I say that about every episode that I release. I'm kind of like, if this episode helps one person, then that's my job done. I'm happy with that. That's amazing. And when I was actually speaking to someone who was newly diagnosed, and she's kind of the same age as me, and she's in the same position, like she just got married and stuff, and she was like, I've now got this MS diagnosis and I want to have a baby and I'm really stressed about it. And I told her actually I was going to interview Beccy Huxtable in a few weeks' time, and she just said, oh my god, I need to listen to that episode. I need to know somebody that's gone through it. So I think it's going to help so many people. So I'm so grateful for you to being on here. So yeah.
Just do it, I would say. If she's downloaded it and you're listening, just do it. Don't wait. Don't hold back. Just do it.
Okay, so Becky, shall we do some super quick secrets? Are you ready for this?
Yes, go on then. Do you know, I sent me so I've had a bit of a chance to prep, but the MS means that I've now completely forgotten what they were. So I'm going to do the and as if you've asked me them straight for real now anyway.
Well, that's okay. It just means that it doesn't sound as scripted, so that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, Enabled Warriors, this is the part of the show where we find out a little bit more about the personality of our guest with some super quick secrets. We've talked about some heavy stuff here today, so let's have a little bit of fun before we go. Are you ready for this, Becky?
Yes, go on. Hit me with them.
Let's do this. So what is the most inspiring book that you've ever read?
Whew, that is a big one.
I have to say as well, while you're thinking, whatever you say is going to be better than Scott Mills's answer.
What did he say? Was it something about prisoner cell block H?
Well, you said he didn't read anything. So
Oh right,
didn't
yeah.
give me one.
He probably just reads. He just reads Grazia and Heat. I think. Do you know? Actually, it's one that I've read really recently, and it's a book by Matt Haig, and it's called Reasons to Stay Alive. Have you heard of it or read it?
No, that sounds good.
So he had depression, and he had a breakdown, and he tried to commit suicide. And this sounds like it's really heavy, and the title sounds like it's really heavy, but it's his story and how to get through. You talk about mental health and how to get through it, and there is the most beautiful list at the end of that book. And it's basically, I can't remember how many numbers on it, but I think about it a lot. I got it out the library, and I need to buy it, because it's one of those books which you kind of need to have with you, and especially that list of just things that you need to appreciate every day. And his story is so inspiring, and I think everybody should read that book. It's called Reasons to Stay Alive.
Reasons to Stay Alive by Matt Haig, was it?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I am totally going to check that out after this.
Yeah, no, there's some lovely things in there, and it's things like the tips at the back, the list. I'm trying to remember. I think it's things like, when the sun's out, get outside.
Yeah.
There's one which really resonated with me, which was sip, don't gulp. And I thought, whilst you're talking about that, just for drinking, yes, you can say that, just for drinking, sip it, wait, enjoy. But I think that's quite a useful kind of, what's the word, motto for life, in a sense. Just take it slowly, take it all in, don't rush through it. I think that's quite a good, read it, don't listen to what I'm saying about it, go and read it. And it's quite a short book as well. It's not a massive read. You can read it quite quickly.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Oh, I'm definitely going to check that out. That sounds really good. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So what is the weirdest thing you think you've ever done?
That has to be when I was working with Scott, and it has to be something that I was made to do for the radio. There are so many things. Off the top of my head, I had to cut Andy Murray's hair. But I think the weirdest thing I ever did was go on a ghost tour in Edinburgh with David Hasselhoff. I think that is probably the weirdest moment of my life. It's one of those moments where you kind of stand there and go, is this actually happening? Like, I've had dreams that have been less weird than that. As in, why am I with David Hasselhoff? Why are we on this ghost tour? We're in Edinburgh. We're in this underground room which someone's telling us is haunted. He's going, this is rubbish. No, it's not. Let's go. And you're just thinking, this is one of these most surreal moments of my life. So yeah, I think that has to be. That has to be it. I can't even remember. It's one, and now I think the thing was, when you're working on a show like that, these sort of things become the norm.
Yeah.
As in, you end up doing strange things with strange people. I think we once filled a room with mouse traps and got like a blindfolded celebrity to walk through. And I just think, who comes up with these ideas, and why? I mean, I know who comes up with them. Us.
As I said, didn't you?
Why do you think that was a good idea? I don't know. Yeah.
And then there was the jar scenario.
Yeah.
And I read
so
that, I was like,
strange things on the internet. I don't know, somebody just selling a jar of air, but it's just one of those things.
With the ghost of George Harrison, obviously.
Yeah.
So funny. I love that about radio, that there's just so many random things that happen. It's just brilliant. So what is your most favourite place that you have ever visited?
I think it depends on You can hear my son go, "Mama, mama, mama,"
Oh.
in the background. Favorite place that I've visited? It depends on what I want. I think if I want somewhere hot, I'm going to say the Greek islands. So somewhere, an island in Greece, somewhere, doesn't matter which one. I just love them all. I love the food. I love the people. I love the beaches, and the sunshine. And then if it's somewhere like a city, I think I'm going to say New York, just
Ooh.
because there's so much going on. And again, there's so much choice of food. There's food running is the theme here. So much to do. Parks and just general culture. Yeah, so if it's somewhere hot and I don't have to do anything, I'm going to go to a Greek island. But if it's a city, I'm going to go back to New York.
That sounds perfect.
Yeah.
Both of those sound perfect. What would you say? What would you say is the scariest thing that you've ever done?
Jumping out of a plane, I think. Yeah, I did a skydive, and that was scary. And it wasn't the skydive. The skydive itself wasn't actually scary. I think I was more scared by the crappy little plane that we went up in. So actually, by the time it got to do the skydive, I was ready to go because I just wanted out. And do you know what? It was better for me just to jump than have to come back down in that plane, because you go up in this tiny little thing and the doors open. I was like, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this. Then you're sat on the floor and I was like, just get me out, just get me out. This is scary. So most people would be scared of sitting at the edge and jumping, but I was scared of the plane. I just wanted out. So the skydive, but not for the reasons that you think.
I love that so much. That's so funny. You know, so many people have said like a skydive for the answer to that question, but nobody has ever said because the plane was really bad.
Oh, right. Yeah, no, don't. I do it again if I could go up in something different, but not
a safer plane.
not
you
in
do
a
it
plane. Yeah, no, not in one of those little mini ones.
Oh, that is brilliant. Wow. So Becky, where can other warriors find out more about you and what you do?
I live quite a boring life now, so whether they want to or I don't know. No, I work kind of behind the scenes at the BBC now, so I'm way less interesting than I used to be. I'm not hunting paranormal activity with celebrities anymore. But my Instagram is Beccy Huxtable, Becky with 2 C's, and same on Twitter. Yeah, and I'll just pop up on there randomly at time to time. But yeah, that'd be good. Get in touch. If you've got any questions, I always say, if anybody has any questions or just wants to chat about MS or anything like that, then please just get in touch. I might take a while to reply because I'm quite forgetful and I don't really have much time, but I will always try and reply, and I'm always happy to talk to people. So yeah, do it, and don't think bad of me if I don't reply straight away. You'll know this. If you're trying to set up these interviews, I'm like,
just ignore me.
Yeah, I don't ignore. I do see it, and then I'm thinking, oh no, I've got to. Oh, I forgot that. I've forgotten that. I just blame it on the MS. Yeah, so please don't think I'm being rude, but I genuinely, if you've got a question or just want to chat or whatever, then please reach out, because I know how important that was for me and all the support I got for people when I was first diagnosed. And even now, the support I get on Twitter and from those sort of things from other people is invaluable. So I always promised that I would do the same. So yeah, I might not get back to you straight away, but I will get back to you.
But you will eventually.
Yes.
That's lovely. Thank you so much for doing that. That's just like the nicest
No
thing
worries.
ever. So I've just thought of another question actually I really want to ask you before we go. And I hope this is okay to ask you. What is the coolest celebrity that you've ever met?
Oh my goodness, that is so hard. I can't remember who I've met and who I haven't. That sounds so awful. Did you ask Scott that question? I don't know I don't know. It's got to be somebody like Dave Grohl, hasn't it? Or Chris Martin, or Kylie, or I don't know, some film star. I don't know. That's really hard. That's a really hard one.
Sorry, like, oh, I wonder what the coolest celebrity is. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that is a tough one. I don't know.
Have there been any that have like really surprised you? Like you thought they were going to be really horrible and it turns out they were really nice or something?
No, I tell you what really surprised me. We met Gerard Butler once, and what really surprised me about him was he came in, and bear in mind he's like A-list movie star, and he came in and he was such a big fan of Scott and the show and the podcast, and he said, oh yeah, I used to listen to it. I mean, I'm listening to it all the time, and when I'm in LA and like lounging by the pool, and I listen to it, and we thought, oh, he's winding us up. And then he came on the show, and he's like, oh God, I'm so excited to be here. This is so exciting. And then he said, oh, do you want to come to our birthday party? And we were like, what? He's like, yeah, I'm having a birthday party. Come to the birthday party. I was like, really? So yeah, we ended up going to his birthday party. And he genuinely wanted us to be there. And he was really excited. He was like, thank you came. That's so exciting. Thank you. And we're like, wow. It's really funny that because you don't think that celebrities like that would listen or have that, be kind of fans. But yeah, he was really he was a massive fan of Scott's show. It was lovely.
Wow.
That was really surprising.
That's
He's a really
so
great guy. Yeah.
Oh, how lovely is that? I wonder if he still listens.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
Oh gosh, thank you so much for coming on the show today, Becky. We've learnt so much from you. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you as a guest. Thank you so much for being here. And remember, warriors, you can connect with Becky on, was it Twitter and Insta?
Yeah.
To remind me, because I've already forgotten.
Yeah, it's at Beccy Huxtable. Becky with 2 C's.
At Beccy Huxtable, and all that information is going to be in the show notes anyway, so go and click on that. Go and follow Becky. She posts some awesome stuff. I know you don't think it's awesome, but it is. It is awesome. And remember, warriors, stay enabled. So thank you so much, and see you later, Becky.
Thank you.
If you want to fight back against your invisible illness and help take the dis out of disability, then join the tribe on Facebook, facebook.com/enabledwarriors. If you love this podcast, click that subscribe button and never miss another episode. And remember, warriors, stay enabled.